On this week's episode of the Jesse T Show, the amazing and powerful Brandon Henderson, writer, actor, producer. Brandon, great to have you on the show.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. I'm excited. My buddy, longtime friend, Nate Patterson, is a mutual acquaintance of ours, and he said, you're a guy that I need to have on the show.
He is a good dude, man. It's the way we met is really a funny situation, man. I was doing freelance filming for the One Music Fest, and he comes up with two guests, and they were giving him a tough time on getting in. And he was like, yo, man, I see you're doing, some video stuff behind the scenes. Is there any way, I shoot, I'm an AD, I do a lot of stuff around the city. I'm like, okay, he's throwing all these questions at me, man, and I ended up getting him in and his guests, and they had a really great time. Awesome. And then from there, we just started having, more creative conversations, which he found out a little bit more about me, and I found vice versa about him, and we've been running it, man, mentorship from there.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, Nate's a longtime friend of mine, one of my best men in my wedding. We go back, way back, and so it's great to have you here, man. He told me a little bit about you, but I want the world to know more about what you've had. An amazing career. You're building things, you're creating things, writer, actor, producer, right. But you also had an amazing athletic career.
Absolutely.
And so if you want to talk a little bit about that, because I think that ties into our audience and our viewers, they are big on performance. Absolutely. And they're big on learning and growing and developing, and I think sports talks to that a ton.
No, it does. Yeah. I mean, they're super transparent worlds, right, where you have, this competitive environment where essentially, one person in the team, they start to show themselves as this captain or a greater player on the team, and then you start to understand the dynamics of a village, essentially.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Strong players.
How to manage, how to lead.
Knowing your personnel. So, I always say, man, for creators who are doing things that are, outside of themselves, is bigger than them, where you can't really make this whole thing run on yourself. And filmmaking is, how many people you see on the credits list, 150 plus.
There's a lot.
You have to be able to know how to, delegate and organize and make people feel a part of that process, man. So I say, athletics is something huge. That's a great skill set for any creative to have.
It really is. It goes hand in hand with leadership, teamwork, discipline, having people's backs. I mean, if you want people to work for you, you got to show that you care about them.
Come on now. And what's better than your captain being out there on the front line?
Lead him from the front.
You know what I mean?
It's the way to lead. For those who can't see in my office, I'm a big believer in Spartan culture.
Spartan, 300, baby.
Lead him from the front, man. Die on my shield for my people.
Yeah, so great film, Zack Snyder.
Great film. Yeah. He's had a couple misses, I think, with I think Justice League could have been a little bit better. I liked it, but it wasn't great. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to that stuff.
The whole DC world, man, I think
they rushed it.
They're hit or miss.
Yep.
They're hit or miss.
Yeah, Wonder Woman was great.
Yeah, Dark Knight series was awesome.
I love if I had another $1 billion in a butler, I'd be Batman.
Nolan, we need you, Nolan. We need you, man.
So getting to the sports, though, talk a little bit about your career. I know you achieved at a high level in basketball, and talk a little about your college career.
Absolutely, man. So I started playing in Durham, North Carolina. The Tobacco Roads is popular where, Duke University and UNC was, so I grew up with
Jordan country.
You know what I mean? UNC, man. Jordan
best basketball player of all time.
Come on, and y'all remember, y'all know that. Mm-hmm. Jordan was born in Brooklyn, but he got his reign in North Carolina.
That's right.
Yeah, so I grew up in that whole thing, and wanting to be that. I think that's kind of like a stigma in our background. Whether our kids are African American, they usually is rap or go to the league. So I was, in a place where it was very, very popular, prevalent sports, both basketball and football, and I excelled at it. I was the captain of my team, and I was conference player of the year, and
what position?
Shooting guard.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a little striker.
Good stroke.
Man. Yeah, I was shooting. I thought I was gonna be like Stephen Curry, one of those guys, man. Honestly,
you ever play against him?
I didn't.
No.
John Wall. That's probably the biggest of my class. That and me and him still good. What's up, Jay Wall, man? What's good with you? We still pretty good friends to this day, man. So, but no, just coming up against those guys. He was in Raleigh, I was in Durham, and just building that. I think that competitive drive is really what steamed over into how I'm now kind of attacking this whole film.
Fire for your career.
Yeah, man, the filmmaking job.
You've had a narrative of achieving at a high level in athletics and running that to a point where you think that you just had your calling from writing and you kind of diverged a little bit. Yeah,
it's a funny thing. So I'm gonna tell you this. Pharrell Williams talked about it, and he says in life everybody has two things. You have a natural given gift, and then you have passions.
Yep.
And a lot of us get strained off and our passions in life, right? And then we don't retract back to what our gift from God was. And for me, that was always writing and development and speaking. My grandmother was an English teacher, English professor, so she really prepped me and my brother heavily on, articulation and, knowing how to write and, having...
She used to pop you with the ruler.
Oh, man, she did. I mean, that's a true story, man. Yeah. She was literally, you're not getting that D right, man. She's over that knuckle, man.
You learn really quick when there's pain involved.
Yeah. And now I'm thinking, because I'm signing little stuff in front of people. I'm getting compliments on my handwriting, man. So shout out to Granny, man.
You probably hate
spanking them knuckles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome having someone to kind of keep you down that path. But you also learned by switching schools. So you're at Winston-Salem State,
right?
And you transferred to a college here in Atlanta, Georgia, Morehouse.
Yeah, man.
And that's where it burgeoned. Like your writing career, you met Dr. Stephanie Dunn.
Absolutely.
And she opened up your eyes and your world. So talk a little bit about that, learning and understanding and growing in that industry.
Oh man, it's coming to Morehouse, I didn't necessarily know exactly what to expect. You just knew it was this prestigious university with the best of the best young minds, especially in the African American, more so diaspora or confinement of what we have in America, man. So I was going in really with that same competitive drive. Whatever I do here is going to be successful. I'm coming here to be a competitive person, and through that, I found a ton of creativity.
Awesome.
So I walked into my first classroom, world literature, and my professor, Dr. Stephanie Dunn, I got to thank her, man, for the rest of my career about this. Is she more so, she kind of, found and discovered that writing ability in me that was more outside of just a narrative writer on page.
Okay.
She was like, this is cool, but we're now in 2015, 2014. People aren't necessarily reading as much.
Consuming differently.
Yeah, they're getting on that screen. So she said, I think you really have what it takes to really transfer some stories on page. And she ended up introducing me to the Filmmakers Association president at the time, which I ended up, superseding as he left and graduated out. So I was the Filmmakers Association president for 2 years at Morehouse. And, through that, it really kind of changed everying for me.
Trajectory. And you got a lot of buy-in because you saw the fruits of your labor. You had people that were believing in you and you were growing through. And so I think that sports background with all that hard work that no one sees. Everybody sees the game day.
Yeah.
But the hard work of practice, two-a-days.
Right.
I grew up playing sports myself, not at that level, but even doing two-a-days in the summer. I mean, playing football with pads on, that's not fun, it's something that's built in you to work hard.
Fortitude.
Absolutely.
Because that's what filmmaking needs. You go through a piece. They have a term in filmmaking. It's like hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait. The same thing in the military.
You know what I mean? And you're rushing to do all these things, man, and really get them done in a due date, and then you're like waiting forever. So it just gives you that fortitude, man, to understand, that cycle, coming back in. It's preseason over again. It's pre-production all over again. You know what I mean? So they are super synonymous with each other. And I'm just trying to transfer over those same intangibles, man, to filmmaking. Man.
So you realized that you were going to have a career change. You kind of put basketball to the side. In terms of a profession.
Absolutely. And it's not even that I wanted to put it aside, man. I loved it so much that I had to just it's almost like a girl, like she's like totally over you. Yeah. And you know what I mean? And
you might not be over her.
You're not totally over her yet, but you're like, I don't even want to see your face anymore. And that's how it's been for me, man. Like in my 20s, it's hard for me to really play pickup ball, man, because I spent so many hours.
The love
gym,
you put into it, you almost got divorced in a way.
It's so crazy.
It's hard to look her in the face.
I went through a little midlife crisis. No, I'm joking.
Quarter life crisis?
Yeah. But I mean, that's the one thing I feel blessed about, though, is because a lot of athletes, man, they go through this journey in their early stages of their lives where they put all of their eggs in that basket, right?
And they have to, in a way. You have to have that 100% belief in yourself.
You do.
When no one else does.
Absolutely, you do. Because these guys, if you're not putting those hours in the gym,
it shows.
It's going to show. You know what I mean? And so I was doing that, man, and being but it's not always promised, though, right?
Right.
You can put all those hours in just like this with entertainment, man. So it's more so of a thing like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, man. So I'm really looking at this as a proving factor, and a lot of people say you shouldn't do that, but that's the motivation that
those are a lot of people that never followed their dream or they never stuck with it. And then there's great people there, but there's a lot of people. Everybody will tell you what you can't do.
Real right.
And nobody really tells you what you can't do.
Nobody know how to do it themselves.
That's right. That's right. You got to lead the way. So your whole world opened up to you with the writing, the acting, performing, producing, because of that whatever it took mentality from sports and growing up. And so. In terms of like moving into learning the film business and seeing there's an actual business to it. It's the people that it's techniques, it's things that you have to understand. Talk a little bit about how it was transitioning from, I guess, college into the film business, and what that was like, and your learnings and understanding of how that operated and worked.
Very cool. I mean, I would say for me, it wasn't as difficult as many may think.
Okay.
I already had the writing foundation down, and more so for me, it was like I was always I was the second son, so I was the second kid, baby boy.
Yep.
And I had an older brother that I would just have to learn because you got older kids around you. They didn't want to teach the young boy all the time, so I would have to be a really good person at watching and then duplicating it. And that's what, more so kind of happened with me with basketball. Nobody necessarily trained me. I would just be playing with my brother, and years of,
learn
being
by
competitive.
seeing and watching.
Yeah, I started kind of, prep myself on it, man. And
was he a good ball player too?
He was, man. I won't lie, man. My brother is, let me give you a few little credit points on this joint, man. Devon Henderson, man. He really kind of made me believe, basketball was a possibility for me, just the same way he made me believe that filmmaking. So me being the second son, I got that second lap of a lot of the exposure. So, my parents. It's
good to have a good big brother like that.
Yeah, man. It really teaches you. And then, being the second one, I think we're gifted because your parents are more so just kind of figuring it out with you.
Absolutely.
The first son, you got to do it a straight, narrow pathway. And for me, it was like, let's see what Brandon's talent is going to be. So I appreciate that, man.
It's a funny way to illustrate that point because we have a 5-year-old and almost 3-year-old boy, and the 5-year-old, we definitely treat the 3-year-old a lot different.
It's crazy.
Like even little things like when it comes, and I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but like little safety things like with the 5-year-old, like we would baby proof the whole house.
Oh,
and like now it's like the 3-year-old just runs around and does whatever he wants.
It'll be all right.
So far so good. So we might have overdid it, but it's good to have that leadership and have that dynamic between brothers, and it's great because I grew up with sisters and they were older, and so for me, I always wanted a brother. Since I had had a lot of friends growing up, but never a brother. So it's cool to have that because he was in a way a coach, a mentor, a partner, like teammate, and he was able to push you along sometimes when like you needed that motivation, and sometimes that fire under your ass, like competitive nature. You want to beat your big brother's butt at every turn.
Absolutely. That's what it was for me. I mean, like at the start of basketball in my career, me playing with a person that was 4 or 5 years older than me, and then I go play with my age group. It was like, man, it's nothing. You know what I mean? So that's the success of, and that's essentially what's happening to me in filmmaking, man. So, the guidance that I've had from Morehouse and then the people I've been able to assist, those are the things, that mentorship, the guidance, the knowledge, the information, that's what separates the ones who are just out here, making activity in filmmaking into the ones who are necessarily making their mark.
That's right.
In filmmaking.
So you keep, filmmaking is your passion, it's your career, it's your calling, with the writing, the acting, producing. Talk a little bit about some of the projects you've been able to work on, TV and film.
Oh man, so when I first landed to Atlanta, being in college, I was, like that typical guy finding opportunity through extra work. So, Tyler Perry, man, shout out to TPS, man. That was my first big opportunity working, getting a featured extra, like literally speaking lines. That's awesome. It made me eligible.
You arrived. You're so excited.
I was eligible for SAG after the whole thing and everything, man. So it was for Let's Stay Together. And I remember that was probably through that 2013, 2014 circuit of BT where they were doing. And then from there, kind of being other BT shows, maybe The Game, I would say, probably with Mara Brock-Akil and Salima Akil, and then that transitioned into being Mary Jane with the Gabrielle Union show. And from there, you find levels of being an extra and then, being around, showing your diligence. Talk about
that a little bit, like the extra work that you've done, because you go from you started out as an extra, but you become the best extra. Yeah. And then you become a rehearsal actor. Yeah,
absolutely.
So what was that transition like? What were you learning? How did it feel going through that transition? And like, what were your takeaways? And like, how did you go? So I don't know what the timing was, but how did you go from like just barely getting on as an extra because you're breaking in to where now you're a rehearsal actor and then more after that?
Oh man, I can tell you it teaches you two things. It teaches you patience. It teaches you humility. Because you come from a background where you're the popular athlete or you're
the star of the school.
You know what I mean? And then you go down to being the little colonel that necessarily anybody care. You're a walking prop on the set. So not necessarily even knowing the extent of the treatment of certain departments and situations on set, and that's something that we hope to change the narrative of in the future as well. But it was tough. Sometimes it's awkward. You're sticking around and
casting calls.
You know what I mean? You're putting yourself out there, putting yourself in so many.
What were those like? Were you at a casting call that was? you had to show up at a weird location, weird time. Like, talk about some of those.
I mean,
situations.
you got butterflies in your stomach most of the time because it's an opportunity, right? When you get that C-mail, all y'all actors out there know when that C-mail message comes through, it's like, you know what I'm saying, your day is brightening up until you see it's just about a callback. I mean, it's just like trying to check your availability or something of that sort. But, you know, it can be extremely exalting. You know, you're feeling received, you're feeling, worthy of the opportunity. And then another side of it can be like super, super awkward. You know what I mean? Just like putting yourself in positions where, you're going to workshops and just like, being in everybody's face. That's what I mean? And then like you're wondering, is that a little bit too worrisome in a situation, or am I being a little bit too ovacious in what I'm trying to get off? So it's like a thin line. It's a tick for tat, and more so I try to. They say this with actors as well, like just bring you to the table. And that's what I started to do.
Authentic you.
Literally just started bringing me, that guy that wanted to be helpful. Can I help you with anything? I'll pick anything up, you know, and just like literally talking to them about life and situations in film that were, could be brightening up, man. Just positive, positive energy, man. Constantly bringing positive energy.
Add value.
You know what I mean?
Value.
And then showing that you also wanted to be there. And then, and I don't know if it works out this way for everybody in every situation, but, one of the ADs ended up kind of starting to notice, hey man, like this kid wants to be here. Awesome. Hey Brandon, man, this actor actually looks just like you. We can probably just hire you for the stand-in. And that situation of favor, right, or discretion ends up happening, and then you have to be cognizant of that situation happening in your career. And then understand probably the extra levels that you're going are going to require that as well.
That's right.
So that's what I started to do, man. Filtering more and more. You start to learn the set, you start to learn the departments, and then you find your niche. And for me, it was writing and the development side. Now I'm an actor as well, but I think I'm more strongly suited inside of the development side.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I'm a big fan of what Donald Glover is doing. It's a ray of doing. He's killing it. And I'm trying to duplicate it.
So successful.
I'm trying to duplicate it.
So I think that a few narratives that were coming out of there is work ethic, number one, and like the adding value, which is kind of like cliche nowadays in pop culture. It's like everybody wants to add value, but you really were trying to come up on set and help where you could, and it wasn't your job description to do X, Y, Z, but that's how you made people recognize you.
Absolutely.
And I think the other thing that the audience, a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast and watch the show, networking. I mean, getting out uncomfortable, breaking your comfort zone, which is a huge another piece. It could be a whole other conversation. But breaking your comfort zone and meeting new people, going on casting calls, showing up to places you've never been to before, meeting people you've never met before. But then owning you, being authentic. And I think that networking, and I don't necessarily, I call it connecting with people. It's been one of the biggest secrets of my success as a financial planner, because it's who you know. What you know is important, but until you meet someone, it doesn't matter.
Connected to a resource that can open up an opportunity. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's unfortunate that entertainment works like that, and acting is essentially how that works. You know what I mean? Somebody has a project that's going on, you get booked, but you're waiting for one of those situations to happen. I have no strife against any actor that's living that lifestyle. I just knew I could, be able to present a little bit more to the table. And, I've always wanted to, be a part of that. Like, I wanted to add what I could to the table. You know what I mean? I never liked to come to people's houses at a Friendsgiving or
eat for free.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You got to bring something to the table, man. So, and that's just always been my mentality.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Understanding the industry, growing through the industry, making these connections, really making an impact, and then growing your career has led you to working on shows for Tyler Perry. But just kind of sidestep before we go into some of the films you've been on. Like, what has it been like for you and actually being a filmmaker? Like actually the creative, the manager. There's so many pieces. It's like being a business owner.
It's tough, man. Yeah. And you're wearing multiple hats. It's not necessarily something that is always consistent, especially at the beginning stage of this career. So I'm always encouraging filmmakers, man, young filmmakers out there to, not put all your eggs in this basket of filmmaking. Once, put all your steam and your aspiration into it, but once you start to receive any, portion of success out of this thing, or monetary, type of residual, I would say, find other things that you can, be able to sustain yourself with, because this is literally what type of industry it is. Like, who can sustain themselves and stay hot and stay relevant and all these things. So, I would say that to these young, filmmakers, take the idea of being a young entrepreneur as well. being a creative is one thing, but you still got a life to live, and nobody wants to be that starving artist forever, right? So that's a part of the journey is earning your stripes in that, and from there is networking, and then another portion of it is like producing a piece of. If you're a producer, you have to put work out. If you're a writer, you have to write scripts. You have to if you're an actor, you have to have a reel. So it's a portion of that.
It's your product.
You know what I mean? You're meeting the dream halfway with the work. So I would say you have to have that super fortitude for that. Being a person that is not easily moved as well. Like
strong in your convictions, beliefs.
Absolutely, man. Nipsey Hussle is probably one of my favorite people to talk
because he had a lot of value for sure.
Crazy thing, man. But almost all the words that he was speaking, I mean, they were super motivating factors to his life, man. So I take a lot of what he was kind of pitching into the environment and really trying to pull it and do the same with mine, because he was more so restructuring this whole how distribution kind of works for music artists, and pretty much like how they can
control their own thing.
They can control. They can move around the labels now, and we can move around the network. So
times have changed for a lot of things in the better, and with business and touching on. People that can start a YouTube channel, they can put out content every day. Gary Vee always talks about, like, if you're a rapper, put out a song a day. A lot of it's going to be trash, but eventually you're going to have one song. And you're going to catch someone's eye, you're going to make some money. And I think that going in that same vein of being an entrepreneur, talking to these up-and-coming filmmakers, you have to be practical, but you also have to be unrealistic. Practical in the sense that you need to fund your operation, right? Like you got to have some sort of side hustle. You could do retail arbitrage, like buy something cheap or sell it on eBay or somewhere else for more, cell phones, whatever you got to do to make sure you're paying the bills and you're eating, but also you still have to chase that dream. You still have to chase the golden goose, so to speak, whatever that is. So for me, it was trying to become a financial planner, coming from being a banker, and like what that looked like to be independent and have a company. And to do those things, you have to be practical, especially if you have a family and you want to make sure they keep the lights on and feed people. But at the same time, you have to be unrealistic, because if my dream is set here and I shoot for that, there's so much more up here that's opportunity. And you have to be unrealistic and unrelenting. Yeah, man. You
got to reach that ceiling, man. And,
then crash through it.
And be willing to crash through it. I mean, because that's usually how it happens with the guys who make it big. They end up going through bankruptcy, or, you know what I mean?
Whatever it takes.
That's what, I'm trying to pitch off to, the young people that are in our crew is it's a notion of, like, sustainability. That's what it's
Some of the biggest success stories, and it could be all across the spectrum, but we're talking about, film industry and Walt Disney. Disney couldn't even get a bank loan out of like 100 places he went to. And it was like the 101st place he went to. Someone believed in him, believed in the idea. And now we have Disney, which is like one of the biggest companies in the world.
I wonder, is that why they say you got to get your 100 no's before you get the yes?
Yeah. So and being in sales for years, the law of averages, depending on what you're selling, is usually 1 out of 10, 10 out of 100. So if you want to talk to 100 people, you're going to find 10 people that are interested, and out of those 10 people, like, who can you sell from there? It's very much a law of averages. So the more people you go out and talk to in the industry, the more people that you learn from. Mentors is a huge thing too. Find someone who's a few years ahead of where you're at exactly, plug into them. A lot of times they'll do it for free. Maybe they won't. Maybe you have to pay them a little something. Maybe you have to find another side hustle to pay for that relationship. But at the end of the day, you really kind of have an idea if you know what you got to do. You just got to go out and put the work in.
Hey man, these guys, we're part of that YouTube generation, Instagram generation.
YouTube University.
Get out there. I was listening to one film director, Deion Taylor. He actually just did The Intruder with Megan Good and Michael Ealy, and he talked about the same ratio you just talked about. He said, I have a ton of friends in film, and he was like worked up. He looked like he just came off a workout, man. And he was like, let me tell all you young filmmakers out there that are aspiring, that are pushing, and you guys are going hard. 90% of the industry is not going to support you. 90. They're going to make you promises. They're going to swear they're going to help you. They're going to tell you to fly out. But at the end of the day, they're not going to help you. What you have to do is you have to lock in with the what? The 10%.
Lock in with the 10% and do you. Like, take care of your own stuff. Like, put yourself where you want to be, but also surround yourself with the people that you know are legit.
The 10% that are loyal to you, the ones that are going to have your back, that were there, that they need that same opportunity as well. They're going to take the best interest at heart moving forward in the project. And hopefully you take those people with you, man.
So in that industry, you've also been able to produce for, make some great connections.
Absolutely.
Most recently, you know,
Absolutely.
with the swag you're wearing right now, Bad Boys for Life.
Right on.
He's got the hat and the shirt on.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it.
So talk about that adventure, because you hung out with the best of the best. Will Smith, Jerry Bruckheimer. Talk about that what you've done, how it was like jumping from location to location and things that you've learned and like people that you've connected with. Talk about that experience.
Oh man, it was let's say it was life changing for sure.
Awesome.
I mean, from the beginning, you know, just being an assistant to Will Smith, that alone is something in itself, right? Where you're seeing the person and how they operate every day. And I mean, everything that we think he is that. He's a motivator. He's a philosopher.
Yep.
He has all the energy in the world. He goes 100% hard. And, you know, for me as a young creator, that was the seed that I needed to know the fortitude that I was going to have to be successful in this industry.
Yep.
So being able to see that, and then, you know, $900 million, man, Jerry Bruckheimer is one of the best to ever do it as far as producing. And it's funny, man, you'll see on set how unassuming and how cool and free these creators are, but you can tell there's so much pressure that has to be involved with it, right? So I'm always amazed by how, you know, they wear that on their shoulders with grace, and they just take it every day, man. So I'm like, that must be years and years of doing this game, man. Because I mean, I'm shooting, you know, little small indie joints, man, and I'm getting myself riled up. So I know $150 films are something to be, you know, pressed about. So, but it was great, you know. I'm working with Martin Lawrence as well, and he's a super legend in himself. You know,
great career.
Who else, man? I mean, Joe Paltaliano, man. There's, you know, they got a lot of new young guys that are coming up. Chris Melton, Jay Scipio. There were so many, man, that I could just really give a credit to, man, and just like really opening an opportunity.
Where were some of the locations you shot at? I know there's a few of them.
We were here mostly. You know, 6 months was the whole production schedule. 4.5 months of that came here in Atlanta. Okay. And then another month and a half, like a month and a week was in Miami, and then they did about a week and a half in Mexico City. Yeah, they spread it out a little bit. But you know, funny enough, man, you filmmakers out there will learn how, you know, Atlanta is one of those big production regions where we're making it look like Chicago or Miami or New York.
It has the ability. My buddy, our mutual friend, he was talking about the reason why. Obviously, I know this from the financial planning piece, but the tax incentives for a lot of the people that come out here and move in, like studios. But the other thing is they can make the landscape look like anywhere.
Right.
And it's incredible what they can do. And Hollywood's been in Atlanta for years now. Most people don't even know.
Absolutely.
Movies are being shot, and if you drive around the city, you'll get hip to it. And not to give away too much, but you'll see like little signs that say like 13F dash, and it's like these like little location
you
setups.
See little yellow location signs. You know you're around a movie somewhere.
Yeah. So there's it's always around, which is really cool. But one thing I take away so much from Will Smith. He talks about so many great things. Talk about a motivator and a philosopher. He's a man of integrity. There was one thing he was talking about that jumped out at me. It was like, if he jumps on a treadmill with somebody else,
you're getting off that one before
he's going to die before you beat him.
Absolutely.
And I believe him. And that's the mentality you have to have in anything you do in life, is like, if you put your back against the wall and you come out like fight or flight, you'll win. If you just stick with it and you put the right pieces around you and you don't give in. I think that mentality, specifically in the film industry, because it's so cutthroat.
Absolutely.
In dealing with people that want to make you look bad, or, you know, there's a lot of good people out there, but in that industry, people are just trying to get up on. They just move up and do their thing. So I think that having these good pinnacle people like a Will Smith, The Rock, these really like integrity-based people that are A-list and above, but they're like really good human beings too.
And they're controlling their careers impeccably, you know what I mean?
With partnerships and collaborations, I mean, they're crushing it.
Yeah, man, the movies
they don't even need the film industry anymore.
It's crazy. Yeah, exactly. And you know, for me with Will's story, the whole emergence with his Instagram coming back, you know, right? To me, in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, this is Will making his next big stamp on, because from 90s to 97 to 2009 up to Unlegend, I mean, he's the man, right, in Hollywood. So I think, you know, and him taking a few of those retirement years, he was kind of figuring out how I'm relaunching myself.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we didn't necessarily have this conversation, but that's just from the outside in, seeing it. I'm seeing how big the machine runs for Will, man. Because I think he's just got done doing Aladdin. Then you got, you know what I mean? Then you have Bad Boys coming. Then you got Gemini Man coming before that. And I'm like, man, so the dude is, I mean, he doesn't sleep, man. The dude doesn't, he's a workaholic. I mean, he's committed to the game. He gave me in probably 3 months, you know, you can only imagine like
the
what
education
Jaden
you
is.
couldn't pay for.
You know what I mean? And so that's when I see Jaden or I see a Willow, I'm like, there's no surprise in my mind, at how great they've become when
Talk
you're
about power
around.
couple.
Come on, man.
Jaden and Will, and like all they've accomplished, and like the leadership that they have for their family. It's like you aspire to be that as a parent. Like I want my kids to have all the opportunities in the world, but I want them to be respectful and grateful for it.
Absolutely.
And have a hustle, like a work ethic.
Absolutely. Now they're a little. Their minds are out there as far as like what the world is going to create, and I appreciate that, man, because that's what they have put in them. They've made them believe in a limitless world.
Yep.
And I appreciate that. I respect it.
That's amazing what they've done. So now you've jumped from doing work on Bad Boys for Life, and now you're working on an 8-part new miniseries.
Yeah, man.
Talk about that.
Love Trial. So this is going to be like a debut series for us. I've done short films in the past. I've done documentaries, but this is going to be like our debut short series that we're really, really hoping to get on a streaming platform like Tidal or Facebook Watch.
Okay.
But this is that new coming of age, like millennial relationship story from Atlanta. So there's a lot of topics about millennials and how we date and the social media aspects of how things kind of come in.
Tinder, Bumble.
You know what I mean? There's so many opportunities for love, right? That we don't necessarily
and all the wrong
know.
places too,
Come on
potentially.
So that's what Love Trial is really about. The girl that's leading the story, our lead character Rashawn, she has been in that environment where she's done the Tinder, she's done the whole dating escape, and now she is totally non-believing in it. She
lost faith.
She has lost total faith in everything that can happen in relations, and she's kind of focusing on her career up until when she meets this new interesting guy that kind of changes that scope all over again. But this time she's going to do it different. So instead of going into the casual relation, she is sparking into what we now know as a love trial. So this is, so it's going to be pretty cool.
Explain that for folks if they don't know what that is. What's a love trial? Is it like a certain amount of time where she gives it?
So I mean, maybe we could put it in terms of like Steve Harvey's Think Like a Man.
Yep.
We had the 90-day rule where they went like 3 months of abstinence with no sex. So that's essentially what's happening here. It's like they want to really find if they have love, not a physical, lusty attraction.
Not lust, but actual.
Let's see if we got something past tonight or this week. And we'll take it from there. And
which most things nowadays don't. They don't wait that long.
Absolutely.
I know growing up, I didn't want to wait that long.
You know what I mean? So
I don't want to wait a week.
And that's the whole funny thing. So we have a lot of funny conversation in between it, where your friends who are bachelors still living that young bachelor life, that are kind of trying to tie you and pull you back in, and you got the girlfriends who are in their homegirl's ear as well. So we have what we think is going to be a really nice balance in between a traditional love drama story and a really good comedy piece, man, and bringing that together for this new streaming, short content, platform as far as our viewership. I think we're going to be in a perfect place.
Are you? Have you already created? Are you in production?
Yeah, we're in post right now. Okay. Yeah, we're in post. So we're more so getting the marketing pieces of extra photo shoots done, the trailer shoots, all the interviews with the cast and stuff like that. So be really ready for the whole rollout kit, man. But this is something that we want to prepare for 2 months of streaming. I think we're going to really kill that young 25, that millennial 25 to 35 age bracket, fresh out of college, kind of living that young adult life. I think we're really going to kill that market, man.
A good tip maybe is depending on how this stuff is marketed in that industry, I'm not sure, but even if you can get it out through social media, like some Facebook ads or Instagram ads, and have some influencers jump on it, that'd be really good.
Absolutely. I mean, we're hoping for, with this whole Facebook Watch, man, they have a lot of good geared up shows they have, and I think on the quality level that we're putting out is right in that same vein. So hopefully you guys see us out there, man, on these streaming platforms, not just streaming ourselves, but with the distribution of some company backing behind us, and hopefully we'll be back on the show to talk about it.
Nice, man. Nice. Yeah. So where are we at today in terms of up to current date? August 2019. Right. We're trying to get that out into distribution through post. What are some other things on the horizon for the rest of 2019?
Oh man, we got a lot of this is distribution season. Okay. So I just got done. Also, I was an associate producer on a documentary called Watching the Storm about a Baltimore watchmaker that brought his company back to Baltimore after the riots and the whole Freddie Gray situations as a mechanism of changing the community. So he's taking young boys off the streets and teaching them the art of watchmaking,
which is almost a lost art.
And that's exactly what we cover, man. It's like not only is he teaching them just the mechanism of a lost art, but he's teaching them the metaphoric expression of what the time they have to do with their lives. You know what I mean? So it's like you got a purpose here, man. You got to go ahead and find it before it's too late. So have that documentary documentary dropping. We also have a new.
When does it drop and where does it drop?
We just got back, man, from Martha's Vineyard.
Yep,
so
I know where it is. I grew up in Boston.
You know what I mean? So we were up there. We'll probably be here for the Atlanta Film Festival.
They have the Film Fest up there too, right? Martha's Vineyard?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we were there, got some great reception. We didn't necessarily win the category, but we got some great reception.
That's
I think
awesome.
we'll eventually we'll probably end up, having distribution, local, whether that's going in back to Baltimore, or we're coming down here doing the PBS, but we think we got a nice 30-minute spot for that. And then we have an advertising piece that we're doing for Atlanta as well, a new advertising show. Y'all be on the lookout. We can't drop any names on that just yet, but it's a really, really exciting new show, man, that's coming. That's going to be
little Easter egg,
little
teaser.
Yeah, man, because Atlanta is you guys can see this nice scope of all this great business and just a super great opportunities for a lifestyle, man, to be here. And I think that's what Hot in Atlanta is really gonna be able to produce and put on that show.
Nice. You're working on some really big projects. You're building the career. You're making these great connections. Your influence is starting to extend out, and you're helping other filmmakers kind of on the come up, trying to help them learn the path and follow some of the same footsteps. And I guess just in terms of being a good human being, like the more people you help, the more that it helps you.
Absolutely.
And in so many ways.
Absolutely.
So I think you're doing a noble effort, noble cause, helping there. And I want to jump into, I'm really big into self-improvement, evolving. The name of my wealth planning firm is 46 and 2 Wealth Partners, which basically is the next step in human evolution.
That's awesome.
And it means unity consciousness between everybody on earth, so we're all connected, right?
Yes.
And in the business, I want my client family to feel connected, and we're evolving, and we're not just some financial planning firm that just wants to take their money and forget about them. We want them to grow with us.
Absolutely.
And so in growing, you have to make the effort to grow. And one of those is self-learning, whether you're podcasts or audiobooks or reading books. You actually brought a book in today.
I did, man. I got a little gift for you.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about this book a little bit real quick.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And so this is...
It's awesome, man. Thank you so much.
They have a lot of these guidelines, right, where you can, be reading these inscriptions and you'll, try to put some of this stuff to your life in it. I'm thinking that, this, I've read a ton of them. I've read, let's say Hill Harper's, Letters to a Young Brother, all the way from when I was in college up to, a book like this now, or Oneness actually is another book that I've been reading. But I would say, the principles that they're giving you are things that you may have heard before, but it's more so like an engine of continuity, right? So what you want to do is, like, you're waking up in the morning, you're washing your face to make sure you're healthy. The reading is important as well. You know what I mean? It's a routine. They're talking about daily habits. So you reading and inspiring your mind, staying motivated. And then one category I really like is about, like, keeping the creative environment really healthy.
Journaling.
You know what I mean? Or just knowing how to, more so a notion of how to work with other people inside that creative environment. Knowing how to speak to them, knowing how to promote the healthy lifestyles, even in you know what? If we can go over that question again, I feel like I bumbled.
That's okay.
I bumbled a little bit too much.
We'll time it out. We'll have Eric cut it out. Okay. We'll jump back into what you've picked up from the book, how it's kind of helped you. And you were talking about, like, routines and like things that the book has kind of showed you to kind of help you kind of thing. So
I just bumbled on. I was like, I don't want to bumble on.
You're fine.
Like that.
You're fine. Okay. Do you have where you want to pick it back up from?
Yeah. You want to open and I can just answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So just some of your learnings and teaching from the book. I know we talked about it before we jumped on air, but kind of a couple key takeaways that have helped you in your life and in your business with this book. Oh yeah, man.
I mean, so the creative environment within your team, right? You got 7+ people that are on a production crew. What you want to do is, like, knowing a habit of knowing your personnel, like knowing how to motivate them all, having them, come in and perform on a high level. So they have a really big chapter on that inside of the book, like just that whole creative environment and how to nourish it and how to foster it. So, I follow stuff like this. Not necessarily something, like I said, it's something new to the sun. Nothing new is new to the sun. We're now getting ideas that are more so regenerated through new words or a new person. But these are reinvigorating continuous ideas that we should be hitting our spirit with at least once, twice a week, man. So, I listen to podcasts, I read these small book inscriptions, or, just go on Instagram or go on Facebook or YouTube and hear some motivational, type of speeches, man. So I try to put a lot of those in my way to start my day off, to, start a new journey, start a new season, start a new cycle, whatever you're starting. But I think this is, if you got a lot of new young business filmmakers out here that are trying to really start their careers off and want to know how to do it the right way, I think following a book like this will really put you on the right track.
So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Powerful Lessons in Personal Change, and everything has to start with you, whether it's your business, whether it's your relationships, your health, your wealth. I think that the biggest thing I can take from just kind of something like this and how you've narrated it is that success leaves clues, right?
Absolutely.
And so if you're reading every day, if you're watching YouTube University, as I call it, if you're looking at Instagram thought leaders and people that are motivating, if you're focused on your health and wellness, nutrition, fitness, these things are what help you grow, right?
Absolutely.
And they will help you lead. And if you're in a business of helping other people, it helps you be a better leader.
Absolutely.
It goes back to you being a captain in sports. You have to be able to move your people and what motivates them, what doesn't motivate them. Some people are motivated by money. Some people are motivated by the freedom to be able to do what they want when they want.
Absolutely.
Some people are motivated by family time. And if you know these things and you have something that kind of leads you and guides you, it just makes you a better person, but it also makes you a better business person.
It's a life GPS. That's why I can make an analogy.
It is. It's perfect.
You know what I mean? We can go around the board. Everybody might know how to get to the end point, but you're taking all these windy roads to get there, man. Books like this just give you a GPS direction on how to shortcut that thing.
And thank you so much for the gift. I've been hearing this recently, so I think it's kind of part of the universe telling me I need to read it.
Come on, man.
So
the least we can do, man. We come with gifts, man. We bear gifts.
Thanks so much. I'll get into this. And then as far as people getting in touch with you, learning more about what you're doing, the mission, the movement, the things that you're doing with some of the new series coming out, if they want to follow you on social media or if anything like that, how can they find you?
Oh, yeah, man. Please do, guys. We're found on Instagram. More so, that's the most prevalent one we're on, is I would say at being.historic. So that's BEING.HISTORIC. Literally speaking it into existence. Again, my name is Brandon Henderson. Y'all guys, we want y'all looking out for Love Trial, man. It's on the way. It's going to be new. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be sexy. It's going to be edgy. It's going to be funny. Everything that you really want inside of a short series, man. We got it coming to you.
Awesome. He's Brandon Henderson. I'm Jesse T. Be sure to catch his full episode and podcast and check us out for our next week's episode. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir.
See you.
A-Town.